Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of the Roundabout Way of Fate. This will be Part 17, Chapter 12, entitled The Ripples. A loud boom catches everyone's attention, including the villains. They all look up to see the Nomu go flying into the air, breaking through the glass windows of the dome and causing a massive vibration that shakes the earth. The beast disappears, but a moment later, All Might is leaping towards them. In the blink of an eye, he takes out the villains that are attacking Kachan, Kirishima, Todoroki, and Izuku before going to rescue Aizawa. Kurogiri and Shigaraki barely have time to react before the number one hero knocks them back with an air pressure strike from a fist while he grabs Aizawa. He immediately brings the injured man over to Izuku and then steadfastly plants himself between them and the two villains. Izuku can barely hear what All Might says then. He doesn't have time to worry about the hero's condition after his fight with the Nomu. All he can focus on is Aizawa and the sickening amount of blood that is pouring out of his back. He's almost glad that the man is unconscious, having passed out either from pain or just pure exhaustion from having fought so hard for so long. He just barely manages to remind himself to analyze Aizawa's wound instead of automatically healing it as he drops to his knees beside him. The skin on most of his back is completely gone, leaving a mess of raw, exposed flesh and muscle. Thankfully, despite the heavy bleeding, it doesn't appear to be very deep. Shigaraki's disintegration, or whatever his quirk was, doesn't seem to have had enough time to reach down to bone, so there's probably no spinal damage. Thank God. Izuku wouldn't know what to do if that happened. It's still a horrendously disgusting wound to look at, though, so Izuku swallows down some bile that threatens to crawl up his throat and gently places his hands on Aizawa's bloodied back. He doesn't even think twice about the fact that he's not allowed to heal pros without a license. He's just glad he doesn't have to spend time cutting away Aizawa's clothes like he did with Uraraka. His teacher's shirt had been disintegrated along with his skin, so it doesn't get in the way of his quirk activating. Izuku feels himself weaken even more as his energy flows into Aizawa's body. Fighting and healing All Might's injuries has already taken a decent chunk of his stamina, and now as Aizawa's skin and muscle regrows underneath his palms, he finds himself struggling to stay upright. It's a good thing he's kneeling. He'd probably collapse if he was standing. Aizawa's healing doesn't take more than 15 seconds, but he still doesn't regain consciousness. Before Izuku can even begin to wonder why, Shigaraki's voice catches his attention. He used a cheat. Izuku looks up and feels his breath catch in his throat. The villain is staring at him, blood-red eyes peeking out from between deceased fingers, making him feel pinned to the spot. A scratchy voice rasps. He used a cheat. Hey, that's not fair. What's wrong? All Might taunts. You're not coming. Izuku is sure that the only reason All Might isn't going after them himself is because he doesn't want to get caught up in Kurogiri's quirk again. Shigaraki startles at his words and takes a step back, looking at All Might. He gave you a one-up. You were supposed to be weak. Izuku frowns. One-up. Cheat. He's talking like this is all just one of those video games he plays with Kachan. Shigaraki starts wildly clawing at his own throat again. Damn it, damn it, damn it, he snarls. We've been completely overwhelmed. I can't believe he did that to my Nomu. All Might quickly gets tired of his chattering. Come now, villains. I'm sure we'd all like this to end as soon as possible. Surrender and come quietly, or I'll make you. I hate you, Shigaraki spits. I hate you. You don't play fair, hero. Shigaraki, Kurogiri warns, but before he can say anything else, he suddenly shields Shigaraki from a bullet flying their way. Izuku looks up to see that the rest of UA's teachers have arrived and are standing on the platform. He thinks he sees Principal Nezu too, but he can't be sure since they're so far away. Despite the distance, he's able to hear Present Mike scream, loud enough and clear, as the voice hero takes care of the remaining villains in the plaza. Damn, they're here already. Shigaraki groans and then sighs, clearly disgruntled. It's game over now. Shall we go home and try again later, Kurogiri? I won't let you escape, All Might says, tensing up. Instead of looking at the pro-hero, or even his ally, Kurogiri turns to Izuku. His golden eyes narrow. Izuku shrinks under his unnerving gaze. Actually, Shigaraki, Kurogiri starts to say, only to be interrupted by a flurry of Snipe's bullets flying toward them. Shigaraki shrieks as he gets hit a couple of times before Kurogiri swirls around him. They both disappear into a portal a moment later. Hey! All Might lunges towards them, but it's too late. His hand swipes on empty air. There's a beat. Then, Kirishima lets out a sigh of relief. They're gone. Beneath his palms, Izuku feels Aizawa stir slightly. He carefully rolls his teacher onto his newly healed back, but he doesn't regain consciousness. Why isn't he waking up? Kirishima asks. You healed him. I don't know, Izuku replies, moving to check Aizawa's vitals. His breathing is rapid and shallow, and when Izuku feels his unusually pale skin, it's cold and clammy. His hand moves to the man's neck, feeling for his carotid artery. Aizawa's pulse throbs rapidly under his fingers. I think it's from blood loss, Izuku says, a bit uncertainly. I guess my quirk can't do anything to help that. His heart's going into overdrive, trying to replace what he lost. Is he going to be okay? All Might asks, and Izuku glances up at him. He hesitates, eyeing the puddle of blood underneath Aizawa. I'm not really an expert on blood loss, but I don't think he lost a dangerous amount. He probably just passed out because it was so sudden, and he also fought for a really long time, so he's probably exhausted anyways. So are you, Kachan grunts, grabbing underneath his armpits and lifting him up. Izuku tries to gather his feet underneath him, but his legs are too wobbly to hold him up. Kachan wraps Izuku's arm around his shoulder and takes most of his weight. Let's get these guys back to the bus, he says roughly. Shota-kun! They look up to see Present Mike running over to them with Vlad King right behind him. His eyes widen when they land on Aizawa's unconscious form, and All Might hastily lifts a hand to reassure him. Don't worry, he says. He's all right. That's a lot of blood, Present Mike protests, kneeling in front of Aizawa. Young Midoriya healed him, All Might explains, stopping to put a comforting hand on his shoulder. He's unconscious from blood loss, though. Did anyone call an ambulance? Vlad King nods. And the police. They're working with us to gather up the remaining villains. Good. All Might picks up Aizawa, and then turns to Kachan. Let me take young Midoriya. I can get him out of here faster. Kachan hesitates, but then Kirishima elbows him and he reluctantly lets All Might gather Izuku into his arms alongside Aizawa. He ends up carrying each of them in one arm, with Aizawa's long legs falling slightly over Izuku's, and he's careful not to jostle them as he leaps into the sky. Once again, young Midoriya, All Might says in a low voice. I must both thank and scold you for running to me like that in the middle of battle. Izuku makes a disgruntled noise, leaning his head against the hero's chest, tiredly. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. I felt so helpless. All Might lands on the platform with a sigh. I understand it must be frustrating. He glances at the various pro-heroes and police officers that pass by, as he briskly walks toward the exit. Well, at least now we know of one way to stop you from overusing your quirk. Izuku blinks, trying to focus his drowsy mind. He recalls his quirk stopped once All Might pushed him away, breaking their skin contact. So while he can't physically move or stop himself once his quirk is activated, it seems that at least others are capable of doing it. He makes a mental note to mention this discovery to Recovery Girl later. All Might drops Aizawa off at an ambulance, and the paramedics quickly start fussing over him, putting an IV into his arm and giving him fluids. One doctor asks about Izuku, but All Might explains that he's just tired from using his quirk. "Is Recovery Girl here yet?" he asks. "She just left with one of the other ambulances a few minutes ago," the doctor replies, already getting back into her own ambulance to take Aizawa away. "She's helping treat 13. Once they're gone, Izuku frowns at All Might. "Is 13 okay?" All Might grimaces. "I'm afraid they got attacked by that warp villain. I arrived just as young Ida was escaping, and I had him continue on to the school. When I got inside, a few of your classmates had already driven the villain away, and I saw 13 injured." Despite his fatigue, the thought of one of his teachers being seriously hurt has Izuku squirming in All Might's grasp. The hero tightens his hold on him. "And no, you will not in any way be using your quirk on them or anyone else today. You're going to trust in your mentor's capability, and you're going to rest." His tone is firm and leaves no room for argument. Izuku pouts and hides his face in the man's shirt. "Bossy sensei," he grumbles. All Might lets out a huff of laughter. "All Might!" A plain-looking man approaches them with a smile. His eyes land on Izuku, and he tilts his head questioningly. "This is Midoriya Izuku," All Might says. "Young Midoriya, this is my friend, Tsukauchi Namasa." Tsukauchi's eyes twinkle as he gazes at Izuku with curiosity. "The famous Midoriya Izuku. I must say, I've been dying to meet you after hearing everything that this one has said about you. Thank you for everything you've done." His gratitude is so genuine and sincere that Izuku glances at All Might in confusion. He feels like he's missing something here. The number one hero's brow twitches, and he says, "He knows." "Oh." Tsukauchi just keeps smiling at him. It's almost a bit creepy, but Izuku shyly smiles back. "I was going to ask if you were okay after the fight," he says to All Might, not taking his eyes off of Izuku. "But I guess there's no need." All Might nods, frowning a bit. "Yeah, I'm fine. But that Nomu was terribly strong. If I were as weak as I was last year, I might not have been able to defeat him." He seems troubled by the thought. Tsukauchi asks if he can fill out a report, and All Might promises to do so after Izuku is taken care of. His classmates are outside the bus being counted by a cat-faced police officer, but they wave at Izuku as All Might brings him into the bus. "Rest well, young man," he says, gently setting him down on one of the seats. "Your friends will be with you soon." "Do you think I'll be able to see Recovery Girl?" Izuku asks, then fails to stifle a yawn. "Probably not, but I'm sure she'll text you. I will too, once this is all dealt with." All Might ruffles his hair gently, and Izuku lets out a tired grumble when his ponytail gets messed up. As All Might turns away, he settles into his seat, hoping to nap on the way back to school. Something tugs at the edge of his mind, however, and he finds himself calling out to the hero before he steps off the bus. "All Might." "Hmm?" The blonde glances back at him. Izuku blearily blinks and asks in a tired voice, "Why did that man call me a cheat code? He talked like we were in a video game." Something flashes in All Might's eyes. "I don't know. We'll talk more once you feel better." With that said, he leaves. The rest of the day passes by in a blur. His classmates worry about him when they get onto the bus, but soon turn to chatting about their own experiences during the attack. Izuku idly listens to their stories as he falls asleep against Kacchan's shoulder. When they get back to school, the blonde ends up carrying him the rest of the way home, since they don't have to stay late for Recovery Girl's lesson. They're joined by Kirishima, Ashido, Kaminari, and Sero, all of whom insist on helping the duo to the train station, although they really just end up making fun of the way Kachan gives Izuku a piggyback ride. The Greenette is more than happy to let his friend deal with trying to soothe his mother's fretting when they get home. He naps on the couch while Kachan explains to Inko, and later Auntie Mitsuki and Uncle Masaru when Inko invites them over, what happened at USJ. He wakes up long enough to eat dinner and then falls asleep again. He sleeps through most of the next day, too, waking up at 1 p.m. and panicking when he realizes he's late for school, only for Inko to tell him that UA is closed today. After that mini heart attack, Kachan comes over to hang out with him, although he's still too tired to do much aside from cuddle with Sushi on the couch and play video games. He tries reading more of the book Recovery Girl gave him, but Kachan yanks it out of his hands and threatens to burn it because apparently, reading doesn't count as resting if it's for school. Both All Might and Recovery Girl text him repeatedly to see how he's doing, the latter having a hard time believing that he's actually resting until Kachan takes his phone and sends her a selfie of him pinning Izuku to the couch with one hand. The next picture she gets is a blurred image of Sushi attacking Kachan, taken by Izuku, of course. On a whim, he also decides to send it to All Might, just for laughs. That cat is going to become the next #1 hero. Izuku texts back a smile in return. All right, listeners, this concludes the first half to Chapter 12 of The Roundabout Way of Fate. The second half to this chapter will be up next. I know it might seem a little bit shorter than some of the chapter breaks that I usually do if I do split them up, but I thought this was a good break point because the second half of this one's going to pick up with the day after. But now with the first half here of Chapter 12 in this video, you guys get an understanding of kind of what took place with the remainder of the USJ and what all Izuku kind of went through at the end of that, with All Might wrapping up the fight, some of the comments that were being made, really kind of keying in on for myself personally when I read this, really seeing how Kurogiri was focusing in on Izuku at the end there, but Snipe thankfully had intervened and those shots got fired and so they had to portal out. But there was a huge focus being placed on Izuku. So make sure you tell me your thoughts, even theories you have if this is a new fic to you. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.